What if I told you some of the most anointed people in the Bible came from the most toxic families in history? Not perfect homes, not peaceful homes, not holy-looking homes, but homes filled with betrayal, jealousy, manipulation, favoritism, violence, and emotional wounds. Jacob cheated his brother. Joseph's brothers sold him. David's family rejected him. Abraham lied about his wife. Lot's daughters committed incest. Eli's sons abused the priesthood. Saul's household was consumed by paranoia. Yet, God still called them. God still used them. God still fulfilled his purpose through them. So here's the question. If God used dysfunctional families in the Bible, why do we think our broken background disqualifies us today? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change how you see your family, your past, and your calling forever. We like to romanticize the Bible. We imagine holy families, peaceful homes, righteous parents, obedient children. But the Bible is not a fairy tale. It is raw. It is honest. It is brutally human. The truth is this: many biblical families were toxic, not because God approved of dysfunction, but because God works with real people, not perfect ones. And this is where most people misunderstand God. They think calling comes from perfection. But the Bible proves something shocking. Calling often rises from chaos. God does not wait for your family to be perfect before he starts your purpose. Sometimes your dysfunction is the very environment that shapes your destiny. Let's start with Jacob's family. Isaac loved Esau. Rebekah loved Jacob. Favoritism, division, manipulation. Rebekah helped Jacob deceive his father. Jacob stole Esau's blessing. Esau vowed to kill Jacob. This was not a godly family environment. This was emotional warfare. Yet, Jacob became Israel, the father of the 12 tribes, the carrier of God's covenant. Here's the lesson. Dysfunction did not cancel Jacob's calling. In fact, Jacob's painful family story prepared him for leadership, endurance, and spiritual transformation. Sometimes, God allows you to grow up in unfair environments because your calling requires resilience. Joseph's story is one of the clearest examples of toxic family dynamics. Jacob loved Joseph more than his other sons. He gave him a special coat. The brothers felt rejected. Jealousy grew. Hatred intensified. They planned murder. They sold him as a slave. They lied to their father. Joseph was not betrayed by strangers. He was betrayed by family. But watch this. Joseph's destiny was not destroyed by betrayal. It was activated by it. If Joseph had never been sold, he would never have entered Egypt. If he never entered Egypt, he would never have become prime minister. If he never became prime minister, he would never have saved nations from famine. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes your family's toxicity is the vehicle God uses to move you into destiny. Not because God supports evil, but because God is powerful enough to turn evil into purpose. When Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel, Jesse's father didn't even call him. He presented all his sons except David. David was forgotten, ignored, undervalued. Even his brothers despised him. When David came to the battlefield, his brother Eliab mocked him. "Why have you come here? Who did you leave those sheep with?" Translation: you are insignificant. But God saw what Jesse didn't see. God saw what David's brothers couldn't see. And David became king. Lesson: rejection does not cancel calling. Sometimes the people who should support you most are the ones who understand you least. But God never needs your family's approval to fulfill his purpose. Abraham is called the father of faith. But his family story was not clean. He lied about Sarah being his sister because he feared being killed. He slept with Hagar. Conflict erupted in the home. Jealousy grew. Hagar despised Sarah. Sarah abused Hagar. Ishmael and Isaac became rivals. This was not peace. This was chaos. Yet, God's covenant still stood. Lesson: imperfect faith does not cancel divine promises. God does not call perfect people. He calls willing people. Now here's the question. Why would God allow toxic families in the Bible? Why not just give everyone perfect parents? Because dysfunction reveals character. Pain develops spiritual depth. Conflict produces calling. Broken environments shape strong leaders. God's glory shines brighter in imperfect stories. If everyone came from perfect families, we would think destiny is only for privileged people. But God intentionally chose broken homes to prove that purpose is not inherited from perfection. Psychologists say most extraordinary people come from difficult backgrounds. Pain forces introspection. Struggle creates ambition. Rejection builds independence. Hardship develops emotional intelligence. The Bible knew this long before psychology did. Your trauma may be training. Your wounds may be wisdom. Your chaos may be preparation. Moses was born a Hebrew, raised by Egyptians, rejected by both worlds. He didn't belong anywhere. His identity was fractured, yet he became the deliverer of Israel. Lesson: confusion does not cancel calling. Sometimes your identity crisis is the birthplace of leadership. Samson's family failed to discipline him. He was impulsive, emotionally driven, addicted to lust, manipulated by Delilah. Yet God still used him. Lesson: weak upbringing does not cancel divine assignment. Not every biblical story ends well. Eli's sons abused their spiritual authority. They were corrupt, immoral, arrogant, and their destiny was destroyed. This reveals something important. Dysfunction doesn't cancel calling, but unaddressed dysfunction can destroy it. God gives grace, but not license. Here's the lie. My family is too broken. I can't succeed. But the Bible says your background does not determine your future. Your past does not define your purpose. Your family's dysfunction does not cancel your calling. If anything, it proves you were born for something bigger. Look around today. Some of the most successful people came from abusive homes, grew up without fathers, experienced poverty, faced rejection, lived in toxic families, yet they rose. Why? Because destiny is not determined by environment. It is determined by divine purpose. God consistently chooses the rejected, the broken, the overlooked, the wounded, the misunderstood, because these people are harder to control, harder to corrupt, and more dependent on God. Your dysfunction may be evidence that God is preparing you for something unusual. Joseph forgave his brothers. David forgave Saul. Jacob reconciled with Esau. Moses embraced his identity. Here's the key. Calling is not just about rising above dysfunction. It is about transforming it. God doesn't just want you to escape your family story. He wants you to rewrite it. Dysfunction is not disqualification. God specializes in broken stories. Pain is not punishment. Sometimes pain is preparation. Your calling is bigger than your family history. You are not your parents' mistakes. Listen carefully. If you grew up in a toxic family, if you were rejected, if you were misunderstood, if you were betrayed, if you felt unloved, this message is for you. Your story is not over. Your calling is not canceled. Your destiny is not destroyed. In fact, your dysfunction may be proof that God is shaping something extraordinary inside of you. The Bible is not a book of perfect families. It is a book of imperfect people used by a perfect God. And that means one thing. If God could use them, He can use you. If this message changed the way you see your life, like this video. Share it with someone who feels disqualified by their past. Subscribe for more deep biblical truths they never taught you. And comment below. I am not disqualified, because your dysfunction didn't cancel your calling. It revealed it.